the home of inspiration every day.
Most people give up on themselves easily. You know the human spirit is powerful.
From news,
countries across the globe have been hit by the COVID-19 virus.
Views,
there's a global trend to see an increase in GBV incidences, specifically domestic violence.
Sports,
What's he say? It's a really good ball. It's Shabalala.
And music to inspire you every day. This is Vuka Online, your inspiration radio station.
I just want to put it on my browser. There you go. Perfect.
Cool. Welcome. You are on the Leadership Masterclass. And you know, usually when you hear that sound, we are talking to leaders. We are talking about leadership. We're humanizing leadership. And today is no different. I have, I'm always afraid now of using the phrase young lady. You know, at my age, it becomes so easy to just refer to everybody as young. And then some people are like, what's young? I'm not. But I have a super lady here who will be talking to us yet again about leadership. Remember, we are also in conversations with the winners of the Tshwane Women in Business Award last year. We're kind of catching up with them. And I think for me, it's really about humanizing leadership, finding out where they are, who they are, where they come from, but most importantly, what are they doing now and what's next? It's type of a conversation. And you know, it's never really a structured conversation. I talk to people and then let's see what comes up. And Refilwe, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much, Doc. I really appreciate being here. Thank you so much.
Yeah, she is Refilwe Sebothoma, and I want her to introduce herself because sometimes it's good to hear it from the owner, right? I don't want to use that phrase around the horse as well. Who is Refilwe Sebothoma for those who haven't heard of you?
Fantastic. So I'm just an ordinary girl who's extremely passionate about impact, because I was raised by my grandmother and my mom, who were both incredibly impact leaders in their own right, who really cared and dared to make a difference in their community. And I think I've always been bothered that they did it out of nothing. They did it out of poverty. And I've always then seen entrepreneurship as a tool for me that could enable me to do and replicate what they were doing, but from a position of strength, financial strength, because when you're financially equipped, you are then able to sustain it. So that's who I am. I'm an entrepreneur, I'm a businesswoman. I've been running businesses for the past 14 years. And I've seen firsthand that when people, especially women, are empowered, they always go back to their communities and replicate that impact. And that's how I do what I do. And that's why we do what we do. So under Refilwe as Capital Investment, we've got about 6 different interests, one of them being in energy. Hence, we got the Woman of the Year in Energy for Tshwane Women Awards. So yeah, that's who I am.
Cool. And I'm looking forward to actually exploring a little bit more of Refilwe when we come back, thanks to the Tshwane Economic Development Agency, as well as the Tshwane Women in Business Awards for this conversation. And we will be carrying out this series for the next few weeks, and hopefully you get something. But let's take a quick break and we'll be back on the Leadership Masterclass after this.
The Africa Center for Work-Based Learning is a professional development center for professionals who aim to improve their professional standing. This means that the learning programs we run are more than just academic programs. They are work-based programs that focus on leveraging your current experience as a professional to build your overall profile. A year down the line, the Africa Center for Work-Based Learning is developing into a preferred center for professional development in Pretoria, with 8 professional development faculties including accounting, teaching, entrepreneurship, as well as IT and many more. For more information, go to acwbl.org or dial +27 12 751 7608. The Africa Center for Work-Based Learning, where work is learning.
Welcome back to the Leadership Masterclass, and we are chilling with leadership. I like that phrase now. It came by accident one day because I also run a jazz. I also have a jazz show here on the station on a Friday. So I do leadership on Monday and jazz on a Friday, and everything comes together. I'm very lucky. I get to do the things that I love. So, Refilwe, you introduced yourself, and very much you spoke about the influence of your parents. You spoke about you being an ordinary girl, which I don't believe for 1 second. Otherwise, you wouldn't be here on this show. But I want to hear a little bit about um, the person. Where did you grow up? Give us a little bit of a highlights of your upbringing, and maybe eventually ending up with how did you end up doing what you're doing now?
Awesome. And I think, Doc, the ordinary girl, it's a very deliberate statement and attitude, because I feel like sometimes when we get to a level of success, we make it look so far-fetched, right? And I'm quite deliberate about it so that any young girl who's listening to the show, they must know that if I did it, they can do it, you know? So I think it's a very deliberate statement. So I'm born and raised in a mining village called Marikana in the Northwest. Yeah, so I always say I never had to say I'm from Marikana until the massacre happened, because every time I said I'm from Marikana, nobody knew where Marikana was, right? So then, yeah, you know, my mom went through abuse, and my dad was the financial caretaker. And I remember at about 11, 12 years old, I asked my mom, why don't you leave my dad? Because we can see that you are being abused. And she said to me, I can't leave, because if I leave, what am I going to do with you guys? And my psychology calls it my trauma response. I call it my purpose statement, because then I realized that when women depend on the perpetrators financially, sometimes they have to stay. So I then think women empowerment and development, it's very important, so that it gives us the opportunity to make our own decisions. And I think that's where my leadership role really started as a 11-year-old girl, because I then had to start making critical decisions. Like I remember I said to my brother, we're going to borrow money and we're going to run away, because if we leave, then my mom will leave, right? So that's a leadership decision. And that's how my mom eventually left the abusive marriage and then divorced. But that's when poverty literally struck in, right? Because now we've left the source of finance. And I remember my mom had to work like 3, 4, 5 jobs, do whatever it takes to take us through school. And me and my brother, we wanted to do engineering. He wanted to do electrical. I wanted to do chemical engineering. But again, I had to make a leadership decision that let him go do electrical engineering. I will do something quick that can get me into the job market, right? And I'm emphasizing this because sometimes we think leadership is about being a CEO or being a big boss, but I believe we are leaders in every context of our life. We are leaders every single day, because there are decisions that depend on us that has to be made. And for me, really, that's the crux of leadership. So we went through varsity, worked in a couple of corporates. And I must say, I've always just been a rebel employee, right? The one who doesn't follow the rules, the one who doesn't do what they're being asked to do. And I think after 6 years in corporate, I realized that I'm not going to be able to impact the lives of people at the rate I wanted to if I'm dependent on a salary. So I saw it as a seal that was just limiting me. And I thought entrepreneurship was going to be a powerful tool to allow me to do it. And I started my first business like 14 years back. And as they say, the rest is history. We still here. We still love doing it. I had to learn to diversify as soon as possible as well, because I think COVID taught us the power of diversity. Although I say we must diversify businesses out of power, not out of lack, because I think there's a difference there as well, right? Because you don't also
and I want to follow up on that, because that's actually an important statement. I want to take you back a little bit, and then I think we'll take a quick break, and then after that we'll go into the business and all of that. Just focusing a little bit on that story, because it's quite, there's lots of lessons there already, a lot of leadership lessons to also learn, right? Because you said something very interesting. In that trauma, the trauma became your purpose statement. um, so how did that happen? Tell me, because many people would be stuck in a problem, right? I always say that um, the, and I think this is where probably there's a relationship we relate, because the reason I got into psychology was I never really understood why women stay in abusive relationships. So I kind of wanted to study the human mind and understand, and now I'm here with a PhD in psychology, amongst other things. But tell me a little bit about, what do you mean, my statement, my trauma became my purpose statement?
Yeah. And I think you hit it on the nail, Doc, right? That often when you meet young guys who say, I'm abusive because I saw my dad do it to my mom. And I argue that if we see it and we don't like it, why don't we make it a very deliberate, intentional decision that we're not going to become it, number one. But number two, we're not going to take somebody else through it. But number three, we actually going to become advocates of the opposite of it, right? And I think for me, that's why I saw it as my why. Number one, I didn't want to become one of those women who have to stay because I am financially dependent on, right? Number two, it never made sense sometimes why somebody walks in and my mom will take the last 5 kg yabubi and share it with a neighbor. And it's the last one, because when the neighbor leaves, I'll ask her, but why would you do that? Because you know it's the last one. So it's also a painful process to see somebody who's got the heart of giving, but they don't have the means to give. So again, if I wanted to do what my mom was doing, but do it in a place of strength, I then needed to be financially stable, because I also don't think we should accept that we will always compromise ourselves and give out of lack and give out of nothing and run on empty, because it's not sustainable, right? And I personally think a lot of people who probably even go through a lot of anger, it's because of that, because you start feeling like the world owes you something because you've done this for this community and nothing, and when I talk to a lot of social entrepreneurs, I talk about the ability to monetize the social enterprises, because we should be able to do it, because if we don't monetize it, Doc, it means our kids cannot live out of it. It means we cannot live out of it. And eventually you burn out and you close it down. So I think for sustainability, that aspect is extremely important.
I like the reframe very much. I think it's a very useful reframe, of especially when with many people who are coming from very difficult circumstances, and then they get stuck in the circumstance
Yeah.
as their wound, right? And then they
Yeah.
live with that wound, and sometimes they now want to inflict all of this pain and all of that on everybody else and blame everybody
Yeah.
else. But I hear your reframe is really always around, how do you turn that into a resource? Because I
Yeah.
also like how you speak about money, right? Because many people then will go like, well, I grew up without money, so I want to have it. And I'm like, well, it doesn't sound like from what you're talking about, it's about having money. It's actually about
Yeah.
it's purposeful money, which is having
Yeah.
stability. And then when we talk about Maslow's hierarchy of needs, having stability and security, because then you are able to do things that you want to do, which is a very interesting and an important relationship with money. because many of us have a fearful relationship with money, which is always about chasing it and chasing it and chasing it. And we never know when we actually have enough.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, that's very interesting. Now, why engineering, when I Refilwe? Because you guys were now decided, oh, I want to go electrical engineering and I want to do why? Because especially, again, allow me to be sexist for 2 seconds. You're a girl.
Sure. So I grew up with my twin brother, and I've even today I claim to be a tomboy because I grew up with so I've always been on the boys' club, not on the girls' club.
Yeah,
Which has had
yeah.
advantages. And in all the 7 businesses that I'm part of, all of them are still referred to be in male-dominated industries, and
Yes,
we'll talk about that, right? But I think
yes, yes.
engineering for me, it's also a reality of we are always our decision making is always framed around our circumstances or our environment. So if you grow up in a mining village, everybody will go mining. So if you're gonna start figuring out what you want to do, it has to fit back into the mining sector, right? And I think that's why engineering, because then I knew that I could probably go to school and then come back and work for the mines, because if you're in that environment, it's almost like mining is the only sector that exists in your head, because your mom, your dad, your uncle, everybody works in the mine. So yeah.
Makes
But
sense.
also that, and when you're young, Doc, and I'm sure you'll agree as well that we didn't have, I mean, my kids, my daughter is doing grade 10, and she's already been through so many coaching lessons around choice of subjects and career choices. We didn't have that, right? So even a teacher will say, you're good in math and science, you must go and do something so that you can go work
Yeah.
in the mine. So it was really around that,
Yeah.
yeah.
I love also just the paradox of this conversation, right? Because one of the things that comes out already to me around your attribute, Refilwe, is that you're able to take what the world gives you, what the environment gives you, and turn
Yeah,
it into. Well, I suppose if I were to say it differently, a typical mining mindset, resource mindset, right? Because the resource
100%.
mindset is there's debt in the ground, but we're going to turn it into platinum. We're going to turn it into gold. We're going to turn it into diamonds and money and all of that. Right now, because I think it's actually a very small shift that actually makes a big difference in
Yeah,
how the life is. I want to come back to talk a little bit about some of then the lessons you've learned about leadership now in all of the
sure,
years
sure.
that you've been. But we are more music, more inspiration. So we need to take a short musical break, and we will be back on the Leadership Masterclass. Thank you yet again to the Women in Business Awards. They should be coming through again in the new year. So be on the lookout
Yeah.
for it, and we will see who else is there. But right now, we're talking to Refilwe Sebothoma, who is a and I want to ask you this as well, because you talk about business development strategies. I have no idea what that is. Is a business development strategist, and I don't know what it has to do with engineering and energy. So we're gonna talk about all of that when we come back after this.
The home of inspiration every
Most
day.
people give up on themselves easily. You know the human spirit is powerful.
From news,
Countries across the globe have been hit by the COVID-19 virus.
views,
There's a global trend to see an increase in GBV incidences, specifically domestic violence.
sports,
What's he say? It's a really good ball. It's Shabalala.
and music to inspire you every day. This is Vuka Online, your inspiration radio station.
To the Leadership Masterclass. We are hanging out with Refilwe Sebothoma, who is, amongst other things, a a business, because I want to ask the question about that, a business development strategist, but she is. So, are you an engineer, Refilwe?
No, I'm not. No, I'm not. So I
Oh,
ended
okay.
up not doing it. I had to do a very quick accounting certificate so that it could give me access to the job market
Yes, you
so that
did
I could
say.
help my
Yes.
mom and my twin brother to finish his degree. So he is an electrical engineer. So he did complete that. It's only after that then I started funding my own studies when I was a bit comfortable to start doing other stuff. But I never went back to engineering because the entrepreneurship bug had already bitten. So
It beat you. Yes. Shame. So let's talk a little bit about, so you obviously have been working now, leading people and all of that for the last number of years. What have you learned? What is the one or two lessons you've learned about leadership you can share with the people who are listening?
I think the biggest one for me is leadership comes at a price, and you have to be willing to pay that price, right? And leadership has to start here because I don't believe that you can take people to a place you have not been yourself as a leader. Recently, my daughter got disciplined at school, and her argument was, but I was chilling with the other guys. Why not them and me? And I said, it's because you are part of the leadership at school. And that's why you were supposed to be the one who lead by example. So that's why nobody else is in trouble, but you are in trouble. And I think that culture of accountability, taking responsibility, transparency, we have to accept that's the price that comes with leadership. So even in our different businesses, if somebody wants financials, we have to produce financials, right? We have to be able to do it. And there is a misconception that when you are a leader, you are your own boss, you don't answer to anybody. If you want to wake up at 10 o'clock in the morning, it's actually not true. Everything starts and ends with you, because if you cannot do it, you then cannot hold anyone else accountable for it. And people don't do what you tell them to do. People do what they see you do as a leader. So I think for me, that's the biggest lesson that I had
Yeah.
learned. The second one is emotional intelligence, right? I
Yes.
think
Yes.
as leaders, we have to invest in understanding who we are. In your own language, you said what makes you tick, right? And
Yes.
what are the traumas? What are the triggers? What are these burdens that we're carrying with? And I made an example. So I'm comfortable with vulnerability, and I'm sure you'll pick it up that
Sure. Sure.
recently, I had a big blow in business where me and a white male partner, and I'm using that description for the sake of this conversation, the partnership just didn't go well, and we ended up in court. We ended up fighting. And I was so angry. I was so angry about that whole thing, Doc, because I felt, justified and all of that. And for a little while, I started realizing that this is a very serious emotional trigger. So every time I'm sitting in a conversation with white males who are very dominant, my first response is, I'm going to push back. I'm going to fight for myself. I'm going to do that.
Resistance. Yes.
But that awareness and getting help from psychologists, because I speak with my psychologist all the time, it quickly
Yes.
made me to be aware that this is a trigger. Because if we also don't understand these things, we can set ourselves up for failure, right? So I think
Mm.
personal development, personal awareness, these things are important, and it speaks to emotional intelligence, right? Because it's really about understanding our emotions, but also how to deal with them. And, I talk about tact sometimes, that yes, you are saying the right things, but are you saying them at the right time, in the right room, to the right people, even at the right tone sometimes, so these things are important. And I think once we are aware about these things, it gives us the opportunity to build structures and systems around ourselves to control them. So practically, if I'm extremely angry, I will draft an email, but I will not send it the same time. I will sleep on it, and only tomorrow I will read it again and then send it. And 99% of the time, Doc, when I send it the next morning, I change half of the email because it
Yes,
carried
I
so
love
much
that.
emotional frustration, right? So it's really about understanding your areas of weaknesses, your areas of vulnerability. And I think that's where my
Yes.
superpower is. Even when you look at the teams that I surround myself with, because I'm an impact leader, as powerful as it sounds, it's a big disabler for profitability in business, right? So I then surround myself with money makers. These are people, when I'm crazy about impact and say, we're going to change the lives of 10 people, they ask me how we're going to make money out of it. So it's also being aware of, this is where I'm strong at, this is where I'm weak at, because where you are weak, you can then surround yourself as part of your system with people who are stronger in areas that you are not strong in.
Yes, and not feel unnecessarily challenged by people asking that question. How are we going
Absolutely.
to make money out of it? What are you saying? Are you saying I don't know what I'm doing?
True.
Because you know that actually you are the one who will go there and spend your last jersey, and then now everybody has no salary because you made a
100%.
decision from the heart. I love this. You got me at vulnerability because I think people don't actually get it, right? They think vulnerability is a self-disclosure and sharing all the
Yeah.
details about your life.
Yeah.
When in fact, what I'm hearing you say, and I like how you're linking it to emotional intelligence, and because I think even that phrase, people use that phrase very loosely, emotional
Yeah.
intelligence. But in that, what you've just shared, there is a typical case of emotional intelligence. It has three things for those who are listening. It has emotional awareness.
Yeah.
So I know I'm angry. I know I'm annoyed. I know I have a trigger, right? And I think you've shared that. It has
Yeah.
it's emotional literacy. So I'm able to actually know when I'm feeling what I'm feeling,
Yeah.
which I think for me, many people don't know when they're mad. Many people don't know when they're excited
Yeah.
and happy and joyful.
Yeah.
Because we all, when we talk about emotional intelligence, we sometimes talk about it as if it's just about anger management. But no,
Yeah.
it's also about joy management. You could be too happy, and then
And make
you
wrong
get too.
decisions because you're too excited, and overinvest in a project because you're too excited. I hear you.
Yeah, trust me, the people would get the nice monies and then they go and they buy the first Mercedes, and then you go like, what
Yeah.
happened? You
Yeah.
know?
Yeah.
But I think
Yeah.
what you just demonstrated in the example you gave and the example of your daughter is also then emotional alchemy, right? Because emotional alchemy is the ability to use the emotions to your
Yeah.
advantage. You
Yeah.
know that
Ooh, I
I'm
love
mad.
that.
Yeah, so I'm gonna put it aside, and then I know how to deal with it, so that it doesn't get me in trouble. But I don't deny myself the anger. I don't deny myself the
Yeah.
joy. I don't deny myself the emotion. I love, 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 love what you've just said. But the most big thing now, which I'm hearing here, and I think I'll probably be repeating this clip for over and over again for the next few years for other leaders, is exactly what you've just said about leadership is sacrifice. Because people
Yeah.
think, oh yeah, 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 I'm CEO
Yeah.
now, like I
Yeah.
can do what I like,
Yeah.
I can wake up whatever I like. No, no.
Yeah.
I think that it's always funny. The first thing that comes to my mind when money comes in is, okay, ooh, at least now I can cover the salaries here. And so then everybody is sorted.
Not even you, right? You're not even part of that.
Yes. It's not even in my exactly. Like for the last 20 years. Yes, we're doing well, but the first thing I'm thinking about is, ooh, I
Yeah.
have people that actually
Yeah.
depend on me and that
Yeah.
depend on
Yeah.
this work. And yes, I don't. There are days when I don't like them, but I
True
gotta, I,
story. True story.
So I'm loving this conversation. When we come back, I want us to talk about your business and what exactly is happening there as we start to wrap up with the
Awesome.
Refilwe Sebothoma. And we are on the Leadership Masterclass, and we'll be back after this. How do you know the life or personal coach you're about to work with is who they say they are? How do you know if they can do the job? At the Africa Board for Coaching, Consulting and Coaching Psychology, we can tell you. So, before you share your secrets and spend your money, check with us first. Visit www.abccccp.com or call us on 012-751-7608. The ABCCP, the professional body for coaches. People, yay, hey, this leadership thing, people think they are positions and people love it until they actually get into it and they realize
Yeah.
they are more, it's
True
coming.
story. True story.
So, would you call yourself a business development strategist? But maybe let me take two steps back. What do you do? What business are you in? I feel.
So I think because of the Tshwane Women Awards, I'm going to talk to the energy business because we've got other portfolios, but I'm going to talk to the energy business, High Chem Energy. So for me, Doc, I was sitting in a lot of rooms and Africa was talking about energy transition, energy security. People were talking 2050, nuclear, hydro, big words. And I wondered, what does this look like for a village that I come from, like Vonarkop and many other marginalized communities, right? What does it look like? And when we did our research, because we then went home and did our research and we did research in other marginalized communities, I just could not believe it that over 1 billion people in Africa don't have access to clean cooking, right? Over 600 million people in Africa are not electrified to date. So women then have to go into the field to go look for wood. Then they are targeted and they are raped. Those who choose to use paraffin stoves, their toddlers will drink paraffin because normally we will store it go in a cold drink bottle or a juice. So they think it's something that is safe for consumption. 11% of premature deaths in those communities affecting women, it's because of in-house pollution, right? Because in June, people babasa dimbaula or whatever it takes so that they can keep warm in the household. We have 2 young guys last year in the Northwest who never woke up from carbon monoxide from that. So for me, it's not even about energy transition, right? It's about social economic dilemmas that people are suffering because of lack of access to energy. And that's what we did. So our model really focuses on making sure that the marginalized communities are not left behind. And we have innovated what we call an LPG box, where we are taking LPG into the marginalized communities. One of the very unique selling proposition is that people can refill as they can afford. So if you can afford 1 kg, you refill 1 kg, because we accept that. The marginalized communities, if it's 100 rand, it has so many competing priorities. You need to buy maize meal, you need to buy bread, you need to refill gas, right? But also by taking those LPG boxes in those communities, all of a sudden LPG is not a special fuel for rich people who can afford it. It's a fuel for all, and it's cleaner. It's much cleaner, and all of a sudden people can afford it. So to date, we have transitioned over 1,300 families in the marginalized communities into clean cooking. We have trained about 1,800 school children on the health and safety of LPG. We've really done amazing things. And I think for me, that's also an example of how a social impact driven business can be profitable, because then we can sustain it while we are changing the lives of people. So extremely passionate about that project, Doc. I'm really, really passionate about it.
I can see, but and I think it's more than passion though, because when we started, you talked about how you leverage on environment on the environment to actually find solutions that actually get the environment out of it. I love the numbers you're throwing around. It is so amazing. So when you won this award, what difference has it made now since, if anything?
So it's big. It's big. I think personally, like cameras off, it's that tap on the shoulder that you're in the right direction, you're doing great. Because I might look like a superstar, but we all have those days where, it's tough. You are questioning if you made the right decision, if you are really on the money, there's a lot of noise coming to say, nah, you didn't see it well. So I think recognition like this, it's really a big thing. But also, I always talk about when you are a Black female entrepreneur in what they call male-dominated industries, you have to fight to prove who you are and what you can do before you actually sell your offering. So this kind of recognition and association, they do that for you. Because if you come through, it's like, oh, is that Women of the Year from Tshwane? It almost does the validation and the verification for you. But I think association is powerful as well. I mean, through TWIBA, through City of Tshwane, we've really met amazing other entrepreneurs and business people. I can't talk because we're recording this, but there's amazing projects on the pipeline as well that we're really looking forward to. And business is about that. One of my favorite African proverbs, it says, if you want to go far, if you want to go fast, go alone, but if you want to go far, go together. I don't believe in silos. I don't believe that I can do it by myself. So I really depend on communities. And I think an award like this does that. It creates a community for you. So yeah, it's been awesome. It's been awesome. And I'm here. I mean, I'm here, right? I'm having this conversation with Vuka online because of this award. So yeah.
Right. And we're
Otherwise, I
talking
wouldn't have, yeah?
we talk to over 200,000 people across the world if we can help it, right? So that's
Amazing.
fantastic.
Yeah.
I wish we could replicate someone like you. I'm listening to this conversation. I'm completely inspired, Refilwe, because most of us talk so much about what problems we have and how
Yeah.
much money we want to get out of.
Yeah.
And what I like about this conversation is just the energy that says, how do we continuously turn debt
Yeah.
into resource? How do we turn
Yeah.
challenges into stuff that actually help us? If we all can actually really think about it in that way, Africa is my passion. So
Yeah.
second biggest
Yeah.
continent in the world. We have so much. I need to stop
Amazing.
because the time is the one thing we don't have all the time, and I want to do African time before they cut me off.
Sure.
But last wrapping up, for someone who is sitting listening to this conversation, what would be a call to action? What would you advise the person when they stand up to go and
Yeah.
do?
Yeah. You are not your failures. You are not your circumstances, right? Most of us, we didn't choose them. We were born into them. But how we move forward, it's totally our responsibility. And that's why for me, that switch that you're talking about, Doc, it's very important that I grew up this way, but I'm not gonna accept it as who I am. And when you do that, it's powerful because you realize that your children and your children's children and the next generations, just like that, you have changed their realities because you don't do it for yourself, you do it for the generation that's coming after you. I think that's number one. Number two, there is no perfect timing. I think a lot of us wait for perfect timing to start. We wait for funding to start. We're waiting for something. We're always waiting for something. I think there's true magic in starting where you are with what you have, because it's better to participate as an active player in the field than as a bystander outside the field, right? So start where you are with what you have. And I always say we are not all going to be your Elon Musk and come with hectic, crazy, nice ideas. For some of us, it's really literally what's happening in the community, what are the issues in the community, how do we build strong value proposition and businesses that can then solve those problems. And yeah, you have to believe in yourself. You have to believe in yourself. You have to believe in yourself.
Now, like it almost feels like at some point because people who listen to this show for the last few years, they would know my thing about this waiting, right? Because hey, Africans, we like waiting. Like I'm
Yeah.
waiting for this.
Yeah.
I'm waiting for that. I'm waiting for a loan to be
Yeah.
approved. I'm like, ah, get on with it.
Yeah.
But and there's no longer time to talk about this, but you now raise something very interesting. Can everybody be an entrepreneur for you?
I don't think so. I don't think so, Doc. I think you need to have a very strong, compelling purpose statement why you want to do it. Because those who do it for money, money is not a compelling purpose statement, right? Money is a reward of the work. So I think you need to have the heart for it. You need to have the grit for it. You need to have the purpose statement for it. That's what I think. I don't think everybody's cut out for it.
I like that. And sometimes you actually can find your purpose in the organization within which you work,
Absolutely.
supporting the people that are aligning with your vision. I think we need to stop it here. This has been such a fantastic conversation. Otherwise, I'm going to be fired.
I had so
we,
much fun. I had so much fun. I
yes,
did.
yes, yes. Now we always close the show with a song. What song can I play for you to wrap to close us out?
Oh, wow. Ngiyamwazi umhlengi wami, right? I know, my God. I know, my God. I think it's a very powerful song. Every time when life wants to tell me otherwise, I always just go back and say, I know, my God. I have seen him. He's done great things
Yes.
for me, and I know he's gonna do it again, you know? So I love that song. Yeah.
Who's doing that song?
It's Oli who? Lambo, I think.
Okay, we'll find it. We'll
Yeah,
find it.
yeah.
Yeah, Refilwe, thank you so much. The world can do more. We can do with more people like you. I'm so grateful to have had this conversation. I myself am inspired, and I hope everybody that's listening, you are just as inspired. You
Thank
have
you so
been
much,
on the
Doc.
leadership. You have been on the Leadership Masterclass, and see you again in another week when we talk to yet another leader. Talk to you soon. Ciao.
The home of inspiration every day.
Most people give up on themselves easily. You know the human spirit is powerful.
From news,
Countries across the globe have been hit by the COVID-19 virus.
views,
There's a global trend to see an increase in GBV incidences, specifically domestic violence.
sports,
What's he say? It's a really good ball. It's Shabalala.
and music to inspire you every day. This is Vuka Online, your inspiration radio station.